Maybe
Speaking
I'm
of
wrong.
California and the glitter, rumor has it Tom Brady's hitting Kim Kardashian. It's a rumor, but I'm just telling you what they're saying.
I don't give a
I know.
shit about Kim
Well, the thing is,
Kardashian.
she can't wreck his career though, because it's over, right?
Is
You
he
know.
going to unretire and become
No,
like a professional
I
bowler?
don't even know if he's getting it to broadcast. Eric would know. Is
Yeah,
he
he
still
already
doing
signed a
it?
contract.
Okay, he
He
is.
So Kardashian will be his full-time job, and then
Yeah.
ESPN will be his side gig.
pretty much.
Okay, well
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Well, fuck him. He doesn't like metal.
Jesus Christ. It's Shit Talk Reviews. How the hell are you guys?
Fucking
Yeah,
happy.
We're good, John. Today's a good day.
It's nice to have.
It's a good vibe here today.
It's nice to have the family all back in the same room.
Yeah.
Well,
You
it
know,
is.
we discussed it on the last on the last couple of meetings. The Zoom works.
It's not the same.
It gets the job done, but
Yeah.
it's not the same.
Right. I
You
missed
know?
the seat.
I
my
know you
seat.
do.
I missed the seat.
It's a lot calmer when you're in another part of the country.
True. Very true. Yeah.
It's okay. Derek, take us there. Skitch, what are we talking about today?
Death Ray Vision. I have known Mike D'Antonio for a while now. Killswitch Engage arose from the ashes in Boston when I lived there, and they have a worldwide prominence. And Mike is the bassist in the band and does all the artwork for them. And he also
did
does
not
the
know that.
artwork for Death Ray Vision as well. So we are talking about their new release right now, No Mercy from Electric Eyes, and it's on Metal Blade Records.
I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't know Death Ray prior to this, but as we say regularly, this is great because we're getting exposed to stuff that we wouldn't necessarily hear otherwise. And I'm psyched that you brought this one to the table and that it has graced my ears because I like it. I think it's a good record. I've been looking forward to talking about it.
I love this band. This was a great find.
Look at that.
Hey,
I absolutely fucking love this album. There's not a bad song. My favorite, I'm going to get into this, we'll get into it later, but I got tons of notes. I'm really looking forward to talking about it.
Should we just give a quick round of applause to Derek on
Yeah.
an outstanding
Yeah.
pick? this
Listen,
week?
there's nothing
You
more
guys are-
I'd rather do than shit on Derek.
you guys are such assholes,
Yeah.
condescending. Cut the shit. Let's get into
Derek,
this.
I
Let's
gotta-
get into it. Yeah.
Listen, I'm going to be honest with you, man. From the first fucking track, Behead the King, I was hooked.
Great.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
before we get into Keith Bennett, he is a local guy in Boston, been in a number of more local bands. He had big shoes to fill in replacing the great Brian Fair
Of Shadows
of
Fall.
Shadows Fall. And I am a Brian Fair guy. I've kind of known Brian, for a number of years. Some of my fondest memories was going to Overcast shows who, that's a band that's local to the Boston area. Mike was also in that band with Brian Fair. Then they went their separate ways. Killswitch Engage started, and then Shadows Fall went off and did their thing. And Shadows is coming back, and so Brian stepped aside. He moved out of the area, and Keith Bennett came in. I at first was like, there's no way that you can recover after Brian Fair leaves the band. But to Keith's credit, he stepped up. There's a lot of really good vocals on this album. I love his raspy, screamy vocals. I love that he can sing. He can actually play some harmonies, and he can make things dirty. And I was really, really impressed once I got over the fact that Brian Fair is no longer
You were
in the
stuck
band.
in Brian Fairland.
I am. Listen, once you see him live and his dreads are going everywhere and he's spinning the mic around and he's jumping into the crowd, he is a showman.
He's a big presence on stage.
He's a big presence on stage, and he's got a killer voice. I mean, just a vicious metal voice. For this band, who has, there's a lot of Killswitch Engage in there and the music, which would stand to reason, but there's also some punk influences, there's a ton of hardcore influences, and there's a ton of riffs. Keith's vocals kind of fit this band a little bit more, and you can hear it on a number of their songs. Most importantly, the Unholy Water. That sounds like a radio rock song, and there's no way that Brian Fair is going to be on a radio rock song.
What are your thoughts on the Jeff Gard era in terms of Death Ray vocals?
Yeah, it was fine, but that album for me, it didn't have a lasting power. This has a lasting power, and the material with Brian is just incredible.
I love the vocals. I thought Bennett was unreal throughout this entire album. We don't talk about the podcast. I kind of cheated a bit. I came in here yesterday. John and I kind of spitballed a little bit, and we came on the subject of Bennett because he wasn't the original singer. John, you could speak to it, but we both said this guy was nails on this album.
Yeah. Again, Death Ray is new to me, so I didn't have a frame of reference, but I did go back listen to some of their old stuff.
Did the same.
And no discredit at all to Brian, because Shadows Fall is great, but I say this at risk of alienating fans. I prefer the Bennett vocal styling over Brian and Jeff.
From when I went back and did the same to now, I agree with you, John Bennett.
And again, I mean, no disrespect to Brian or Jeff. It's just a preference thing.
Yeah.
But I think Keith does an exceptional job. A month or two ago, I think it was, I wrote a written review on the single From the Rafters, and I was blown away by that track. I am blown away by the rest of the record. I think it's a great record. They did a great job on so many different levels. Yes, while I would love nothing more than to shit right on Derek's head,
Yeah.
I can't, because I love
agree.
the record.
I knew
think it's
nothing
great.
about this band, and I am hooked.
Yeah, there's a lot
Derek,
of
this was a
pedigree.
great. Honestly, it pains me to say it because I really would. Derek's been on. His picks have been good, and this was spot on.
Yeah. Let's
Yeah.
see. Members of Killswitch Engage, Shadows Fall, Kane, Seamless, Overcast, big bands, great players.
Yeah.
The musicians in this band are great.
I like the thrash, the punk, the metal. Had a little bit of everything in this album.
It did.
For me.
Also, Ramallah is a band that's local to Boston that is vicious, and the fact that, you know, again, we can say this band in the same breath with Ramallah. The folks who are local up there know who I'm talking about, and again, it's really cool to see another, you know, Boston-based band that's rising and continuing to do so with Overturn with their lead singer.
You told us what album we were going to be working on this week, and they list themselves as punk and hardcore meets metal.
Mm-hmm.
Punk tends to have that really raw DIY mentality. Things are raw in all sense, raw production.
This had it though.
This
had
absolutely
great tones.
has it. The
No
tones
doubt.
on this record are great.
Yeah.
The production
The production is unbelievable on
it's
this album.
so clean. It's
No doubt.
such a clean record, but it's
I agree.
which says a lot because it's such an aggressive record.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it. It's clean, it's punchy, super well produced. That's one thing I did fail to see is who produced the record. Do you know?
Yep, Chris Rossetti produced it at his home studio, the Mass Metal Studios, and also parts of this were produced at the Mad Oak Studio with Benny Grotto.
Mad props to Rossetti because
I
he
agree.
did an exceptional job. This album is easy to listen to.
Not only on that side, how about his guitar playing throughout?
Oh, his
the
guitar
entire
playing
album?
is crazy.
Well,
Yeah.
insane.
When the single hit that I wrote the review on, From the Rafters, the first time I played that song, the opening riffs
So
from
the
it
drums,
are
I
just,
mean, just pound on
it's
that.
just, it's a
Yeah.
great song. That for me, I'll jump ahead, and that was my biggest standout on the
Conway
on
on
the album.
that song on drums, he's on fire. on
Yeah,
that song, too.
Colin Conway on drums,
Yeah.
Mike D'Antonio on bass, Chris Rossetti on guitar, Keith Bennett on vocals, and Pete Cortez, who research indicates was one of the founders of the band, correct?
Correct. And what was interesting that he said was, we made a great record that doesn't sound like many contemporary metal bands. I agree with that.
Agreed, yeah.
And he goes on to say, it's heavy as fuck without having to rely on drop Z tuning, which I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And it's a great balance of aggressive and melodic without sounding contrived.
That was another thing that I picked up on was Keith's ability to sing super aggressive vocals, but get really melodic too. I wasn't expecting it. You see a descriptive like punk or hardcore meets metal. I was not anticipating, more clean melodic lines, and Bennett delivers.
One of the things that, in talking about contemporary not sounding like anybody else, we were sitting here today working with the real job, and I had it in my head when listening to the album.
You mean Shit Talk Reviews is not the real job?
I wish it was. Hey, if you can get...
What happened to Mr. I'm up at 4 a.m. doing reviews and posting everything while you're gallivanting around? That's funny.
Well,
I'm sorry. I thought, did that just fade off?
Generally speaking, while you're sleeping or gallivanting, I am up doing reviews or then on my way coming down here.
okay.
So you can go fuck yourself.
I think I know where you were going with that. We are still hanging on Country Time Lemonade to step up with the sponsorship
we had
dollars.
In
one
time.
Tip
In
Top
time.
Tire paid for one fucking 30-second spot.
Yeah.
That's it. They gave us $5. We bought some Schlitz and we arrived. And then that's it. We moved on.
Yeah, it has not been enough for us to
No.
to walk away from normal day to day.
And I had to put my mouth on a Schlitz bottle that might have already been drank out of. Who knows? You never know with
Schlitz.
Schlitz.
Which
Yeah.
Schlitz, you don't
And
know.
then I had to share it with Dave's mouth, and who knows where that mouth has been. Gross guy.
Bad.
This album, though, from beginning to end, was just solid throughout. The production, the vocals, every instrument was spot on. I'm really impressed with this band.
I found some live footage too, recent live footage where they played the majority, I think, of the record, maybe not all of it, but the sons of bitches pull it off live too.
Yeah.
I'd love to be there in person as opposed to, watching it on a screen, but man, they killed it.
So I was trying to make a point earlier about not sounding like contemporary bands, and we were sitting in here with doing the real job, listening to it, and something sounded like very familiar to me.
Right.
And then I went back, and it was the John Bush Anthrax album, The Sound of White Noise. Mm-hmm. And John Bush, for those who don't know, is the lead singer of Armored Saint. He stepped in for Joey Belladonna of Anthrax and did arguably one of Anthrax's best albums, which is Sound of White Noise. And I got to tell you, the closest comparison that I got to on this record to a contemporary, and this album came out in 1997 or 1993, 92, literally is this, and that's what I heard, especially on the Reaper, my favorite track. It's groovy. It reminds me of Killswitch Engage, but it also reminded me of that Anthrax album.
The guitar throughout the Reaper was incredible. The arrangement of the song was great. I like the background vocals. I'm not a fan of chanting choruses, but in this song it worked.
Gang vocals.
Everything worked.
Gang vocals, yeah.
Yeah, everything seemed to work on this album for me.
Yeah, you mentioned not a similarity to, but sort of a similar vibe to Anthrax, and I picked up on that too. A throwback to such a great band like Anthrax. Not to say that this stuff sounds like it was recorded in the 80s, because it is anything but an old style recording. I think it's very complimentary to make that comparison.
Yeah,
absolutely,
no doubt.
And what's interesting is you go on and you listen to like Praise the War Machine. Mm-hmm. It's a relentless, bruising track, and I love it when bands are rebellious and scream and call out dictators, thieves, and whores. Anytime you do that, I kudos to you. But again, I heard on that song too more of an ode to Killswitch Engage, mm-hmm. which with Mike D that would stand to reason. But I felt that early 90s Anthrax in there, and I love that song. I love it. And I drove really fast on the way down here listening to it.
It was refreshing for me to listen to this, because the other podcasts I compare it to other bands. Oh, they sound like this. I didn't have that on this one. I went throughout the album feeling I was zoned in on these guys. Mm-hmm. I wasn't distracted. Oh, they sound like this guy or that band. I didn't have that feeling, and it was refreshing to have that. It was nice.
Nothing on this album screamed out at me like, "Oh, this is Anthrax," or anything like that. But it was just, there was that little tinge that made me think feels familiar, which is great.
Tremendous compliment.
Yeah, absolutely. Who doesn't want to listen to something where they go like, "Oh, I feel at home. This feels right," and this album feels right.
I agree, John. I agree with you.
We should also give compliments to Brian Slagle. He is the guy who runs Metal Blade, and he has stood by these guys as they turn over lead singers. And a lot of times, record labels get a little skittish with putting out records when that happens. And he's stood by them, and he's supported them, and obviously put money behind them. It's awesome to see, and I'm really happy for Keith, because it's obvious that he's been in the scene in Boston for a long time. Well, guess what? He's going to be able to go see the world a little bit more and get out with a band that's established and growing.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's not easy for a singer to come in and fill shoes. Right? And this guy nailed it. Bennett nailed it.
He does just a crusher job on this.
No doubt.
Favorite tracks? Let's talk about it.
Jeez, where do we start?
Right off the rip, From the Rafters. Now, maybe it's because it was the first track I heard. I don't think that's the case, though, because I've listened to this album, 20 times over the week, and it always jumps out at me. It's great guitar work, super high energy, pounding. I'm not a lyric guy, it. But
the drums are killer.
It is a powerful message, and you sons of bitches are going to force me to start reading lyrics, and I will forever hate you for that. But I love that song.
I sat in here today working. That song came on, and you sang the whole damn thing.
It's a great song. They're great lyrics. So yeah, that is my top standout. I love Premature Evisceration, and Armageddon is the Answer is a great track too. I particularly love the back half of that song. The cannon shot snare.
Yeah.
Like the hair standing up on my arms right now. I love it so much. Can't say enough good things about these guys. I'm just so excited to hear another record that I haven't been this worked up about a record in a while. So again,
Yeah, for me,
kudos to you. For
Stop
bringing
being
it.
condescending.
No condescending. This time, I generally cannot stand either one of you fuckers. This time, it's totally genuine.
I don't even know where to begin for favorite song. I don't. End Me, In Unholy Water, Armageddon is the Answer. I loved Behead the King. Crawl Forth the Cowards was unbelievable song. There was one song on this entire album that I didn't particularly care for.
Nobody
I
cares.
didn't like it.
Nobody cares what you
Didn't
didn't
care
like.
for it. But what a compliment out of all those songs. One I wasn't a fan of.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
pretty damn amazing. These guys are good. I'm glad Derek found it. I'm a fan.
The one that stuck out to me, which of these tracks is not like the other?
An Iron Age for me.
Reaper. It was a little slower, a little calmer than some of the
It
others.
was a little creepy sounding.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
And again, only positive things to say about it. It was just, I thought, oh, nice. A little chance to breathe.
Right.
Let the heart rate come down a little bit before.
I like
before
the arrangement in that song.
evisceration.
It was just a little. I love the arrangement. Some parts of the song were a little off for me, but I liked it overall. I mean,
Broken Hands of God, I heard some black metal in there, ever so slightly, which was a change, and it was a welcome change. But it was interesting because there was interesting harmonies and some classic hardcore riffs mixed in there with the black metal. So that was an interesting track that kind of didn't stand out. And also, Oh Great Destroyer, starting off with a guitar solo. I always like songs that just get right into the meat. Finger tapping, awesome, love that. I love when Megadeth does it, and it was cool to see that here.
No bad songs on this fucking record,
there really wasn't.
which is frustrating.
There isn't. There was one, like I said, not a huge fan, but I could certainly listen to it.
Let me tell you what my
You already
problem...
talked about this, Dave. What the fuck, man?
Let me tell you...
Listen, I'm fucking excited. I really liked the album.
I'll
This
tell
is
you
a
what
great
my
album.
problem with this record is. My problem with this record is that it's so good that the attitude in here is far too positive today. I look forward all
Derek's
week
fault.
long to coming in
I
and,
know.
the three of us shitting on each other, and it isn't there because we're all really worked up about this album.
I was dying to talk to you about this all week. I was
I know.
biting my tongue.
Should I pour some Hawaiian volcanic water over Dave's head and piss him off?
Yes. And to our listener, it's true. We are that snobbish that we only drink Hawaiian volcanic water in the STR studios.
Derek, what type of
We will put a call out to Waiakea.
Waiakea?
We are 100% open to your sponsorship dollars as well.
We'll tag him, yeah.
Derek, where's this band at as far as opening up for other bands? What type of venues do they play?
They just finished a small tour through New England. I don't know what they're doing after that, but
Based on your knowledge of the band, like what are they playing? Like 1,000 cap rooms?
Yeah, they play small venues.
Has anybody taken them out, or have they gotten that break yet?
They've gone out on tours in the past, and I'm assuming that this record they will get some support. They did open up for Killswitch Engage earlier in June.
That's good.
They took Tree out on a small tour, so Tree is a local. Tree. We'll have to tag Tree. Love Tree. If you don't know who Tree is, they are Boston legends. Check them out. We have actually done a listening to post on them in the past, and they are following us, and we love them. But they went out with Tree and went around New England. But I would assume that this album will get them on some support.
It looks as
I
though
hope it does.
We are tracking this podcast on July 14th, 2023, and it looks like they will be the only show I can find upcoming right now is at the Paradise Rock Club in Boston. So September 28th, if you happen to be in the Boston area, for the love of God.
Fun fact about the Paradise, and I hope that they've changed this, is there's these giant pillars in the middle of the pit. I mean, I've seen people get clocked into that, clotheslined into it. It's the stupidest thing. So hopefully the Paradise, if you're listening, which you probably are not, take your pillars out, and if the whole building crumbles in, then rebuild it. But those pillars need to go.
Of course they're listening.
This was great. This was a great album. I really enjoyed it, and I hope these guys. I hope it takes these guys. I hope they get some really good press out of it. I honestly do.
I hope they do too. again, maybe they don't need us talking about it, but it's a great record. They deserve to be on bigger stages and in front of more people.
Yeah.
Said that about a few bands before, and
Yeah,
these
3
guys are
albums
no exception.
deep. They're in their stripes now. Maybe.
Yeah, well, and a fun story about Mike is when he is home, he is a fan. And so before I left to move down here to Florida, I went and saw Iron Maiden and Ghost. And we're tailgating, and there's Mike D hanging out, with his boys in the tailgating outside
How cool
of,
is that,
I think,
huh?
what is it, Comcast Center, Tweeter Center,
Yeah.
whatever the hell they're calling it these days. And he walked in with us and had a chat, would chat with anybody and everybody. And again, metal fans in New England know who he is because of Overcast and Killswitch Engage, and he just hangs out. He's
That's
a fan.
a great story. And now that I even know that, I'm rooting for these guys more.
I love the Boston music scene. It's such a tight, it seems, I've not spent any time there. It seems like it's such a dense and just like crammed in group of music.
Such a variety
Musicians,
of music there.
lovers, lots of different styles. Well, you were there for forever.
16 years, yeah.
Yeah.
And I booked the Salem Elks Club, did up and coming bands, and always tried to get unearthed. Got a chance to do some Bill's Bar booking and bring in bands there. It is fun. It is cool, and it doesn't really end. It goes from Maine and it goes all the way down through Connecticut. And the New York guys bleed over. I remember Madball would come up all the time and do hardcore shows. And back in the day, and Jamie Josta from Hatebreed would come up from Connecticut and hang out. But the whole scene is a very positive thing. I will tell you that out of the shows that I've gone to around the country, you go down in the pit there are hands picking you the fuck up. And that is the greatest thing. I mean, I remember being in a really violent pit up in Montreal for Pantera and Typo Negative, and it was fucking violent, and people were getting clocked, and they were staying down, and it was hard.
Jeez.
And that does not happen in Boston. That does not happen in
You get lifted up
at the
when you go
Worcester
down.
Palladium. It doesn't happen, down in Rhode Island. They're there to pick you up.
That's
and
awesome.
it's a cool
It's
scene.
it's cool stuff.
Well, let's talk numbers. I got a pretty sneaking suspicion I know what these are going to come out as, but I'm anxious to hear. Dave, what do you
Phenomenal album. Absolutely loved it. Production quality was great. Bennett was on fire. I love the performance quality. Oh, man, it's a 9 for me. It's a solid 9.
Nice.
I almost could inch more.
Yeah.
Honestly, this was a great album.
I feel the same on all counts. I'm giving it a hard 9. Super, super thrilled with the production quality. I love the feel of the record, the feel that the production gives the record. Again, hats off to Chris Rossetti. Did an amazing job. Great players. Pete and Chris's guitar work is insane.
Yeah.
Mike's bass tones are top notch. His playing matches. Colin is a great drummer, and again, we'll say it, Keith, just
outstanding
fucking knockout performance on this record. Amazing. Hard 9 all day long.
All right, you said it.
If you can combine gang vocals, killer riffs with harmonies and sing along songs and make it work, you're doing something right. So I gave it an 8.5, and I'm thrilled that these guys have put out such a great record.
You're up next, David.
I am.
And will you be sharing with us what you've got in mind?
Well, you guys like Drake?
Only if it's, the stuff he did when he was in a wheelchair on that TV show.
Okay, you ready? The band is called Currents. The Death We Seek.
Excellent
glad.
choice.
Yeah.
It's an interesting choice because I think I sent that to
Did
John
you really?
and said
Yeah.
that this is
I've been
something that
listening
you
to
are
it
going to
all
like.
week.
Yeah, great record.
Yeah, you're gonna love it.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I guess I can't say that because we're not talking about that record
Yeah,
yet.
good.
Oh, guys. Again, this is disappointing. Not a whole lot of beating up on each other. And
let's-
that's disappointing.
Let's do this for a second. Let's imagine Dave naked on an island because we did our little short earlier.
Yep.
Why
Podcast
naked?
quickie.
So weird.
Naked on an island, and how do you think he would survive with just records and that's it? How do you think he would survive?
How many records?
He's got 3 records, the 3 records that he
only
picked.
the 3.
Well, how would he survive?
Well, let's see. You're not going to get to build much shelter out of just 3 records,
Yep.
particularly if they're CDs and not vinyl.
You'd be surprised because I'm a beach guy. I'm an island guy. I would survive. I could fish.
How?
I can hunt, fish.
What are you going to do? Are you going to shave down?
I'll shave down a stick and put some. Yeah. I
So
can
you're going to
fish.
take your chest hair and string them into line to go fishing
I don't
with?
have much chest hair though.
And then use like your Italian pubic pubic hair to make a hook and go fishing. I mean, you're
be
fucking gross,
I bet
man.
you I could last a lot longer than you could.
Look at me, I'm as white as a ghost, of course. Well, listen, I think you'd die pretty quick.
You'd be
I have
surprised.
no faith in you.
On that note, this has been a treat. Have a lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
See ya.
Hate you, Dave.